hustling, by doing the only thing I knew how to do, doors opened for me that I couldn't have otherwise imagined.
While other people are focused on impressing each other, people like me are winning on LinkedIn. Why? Because it's all about connecting.
I couldn't breathe if I wasn't an entrepreneur.
Welcome to the Startup Gambit, presented by Haste and Hustle. I'm Shauna Arnott, founder and CEO of Haste and Hustle.
And I'm Devon Codrington, COO of Haste and Hustle. And today's guest is none other than Dan Spottsville, CEO and co-founder of Valynt Digital Marketing, data-driven marketing. Dan, what is up? So good to see you again. I talked to you about an hour ago before this, but glad to have you on the Startup Gambit Podcast. Welcome.
Thanks for having me on.
Of course. Before we get into things, and Dan, we want you to explain everything you do, how you got into this, your 12 years of background in marketing. Let's hear a word from our sponsor.
What if I'm not ready?
What if I don't have all the answers?
What if I just keep going?
What if it doesn't go as expected?
What if this setback helps me see the bigger picture?
What if I realize how far I've come?
What if I remember I'm doing the best I can with what I've got?
Today, I'm ready for what if.
Get ready for what if. Meridian, where banking feels good.
All right, we're back. Dan, how are you today?
I'm doing great. It's Friday. It's been a busy start to the year. A lot of new partners, we created great partnerships with towards the end of last year. So now we're in work mode. So the team and I have been super busy, just executing and building digital funnels and, looking to deliver results for our new partners from last year. So yeah, it's been a busy week, but a really good one. Busiest start to the year probably since we've started the agency the last 4 years. Yeah.
That's awesome. We love to hear that. I think it's so important to celebrate, when businesses are growing and doing well. And that's something that we love to certainly be cheerleaders for. And we're one of your partners. So we're excited that, we've been working with you and you guys have been doing such incredible work for us. And we are excited that we got to connect with you through Michaela, who's on your team. And so far it's been awesome. So we're here to share a little bit of you with our community, because when we find great suppliers and contractors and people that we love working with that do a great job, it's important for us to share that with our community, especially in this field, because I feel like there are so many people out there who say they can do what they can't. And it's very frustrating. We have experienced it a few times, and it's hard to sometimes see through it, and to know what to look for. So we're here to kind of pull the curtain back a little bit and talk a little bit about data-driven marketing, digital marketing, and all that stuff. So Dan, why don't you take a few minutes to tell everyone about who you are, how you got to where you're going, and everything, and a little bit about Valynt Digital, and whatever you'd like to share. We want to get to know you.
Gotcha. Well, again, Sean and Devon, again, stoked to be here. Thanks for having me on today. Like you were just saying, Shauna, when it comes to digital marketing, there's such a low barrier to entry. So a lot of times when we partner with, the different businesses that we work with, we do find that, they've typically had a not so great experience. But I think that's with any industry. But just a little bit about myself, I grew up overseas in Japan. So I was actually in Japan for 18 years. My mom is Japanese. My dad's from a small town called Colfax, Louisiana. So they met overseas. So I was there for 18 years. Moved over to Texas, or Louisiana initially when I graduated. I was in telecom for quite some time, and, I got my career started in sales. But then during that time when I was in sales, I happened to be living in the Virgin Islands at the time. And that's when I started my first digital marketing agency called Lift Media Social. It was I did it on my own. I started in my apartment complex. running digital campaigns for
Cool.
clients out in the Virgin Islands. Yeah, I actually worked with Subway out in St. Thomas and St. Croix of the Virgin Islands, and that was kind of like my first client out in the overseas. I guess that's considered overseas.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then I decided this is the path I wanted to go. I'm kind of a data nerd, and I think that's why we're here. We're going to talk data-driven marketing. So I quickly realized, I was like, you know what, I want to go do this full time. And I took the courage, mustered up the courage to leave my 9-to-5 job and move to Dallas. And plus, my mom and my sister was here. So it was an easy transition for me to come to Dallas. And Dallas is a huge city with a lot of opportunities. So, both of those things kind of made sense for me. And that's where I kind of got the agency rolling. But I did back in 2017 of October, I changed the agency from Lift Media Social to Valynt Digital, what it is today. That's when I actually met my partner, Chris Matthew, who's one of the co-founders here at Valynt Digital. He happened to be one of my clients at the time through Lift Media. We decided that, our partnership made sense. So that's how we formed Valynt Digital back in October of 2016. Yeah. So that's how the agency kind of came about. But, like when we first started the agency, I think like everybody else, we worked with everyone. We worked with nonprofits, we worked with physician recruiting, we did HVAC, we worked with law firms, weight loss programs, e-commerce, we did websites. I mean, you name it, we probably tried to do it. But there was a pivotal point in our business, when COVID, started really kicking off. Like I think it was March of 2020?
Yeah, 2020.
Yeah, 2020. So we literally lost, I don't know, 80% of our clients in 2020,
Wow.
March 2020. Yeah.
I say wow,
too.
but it's still it's what happens, what happens.
Yeah.
And it's still affecting businesses. Yeah. And I really had a crucial decision to make at the time. And obviously, my partners were there to help kind of guide me and make a decision. But I think I personally made the decision. I was like, I'm gonna get this PPP loan from the government, because they're helping us out, giving us this loan. So I took that loan, what was in the bank account, and I just decided to go all in. We went and hired, a salesperson. We hired another digital specialist, and we just started running our own campaign. And we niched down to 2 niches. One is capital raises, which we've been working with for now over 5 years. So, Reg A, Reg D, and Reg CF capital raises. And then the other was nonprofit. So we focused on those 2 niches, ditched everything else. Then you fast forward, almost 2 years from that point. We're 22 months from that moment that, I made that particular decision, and we're doing good. We're doing great. A lot happened in between. I mean, I'm skipping a lot, but lots of ups and downs in between that 2 years, but we made it, and here we are, connected with you guys, and excited to be here, so.
That's awesome. I mean, I know, like you say, you skipped over a lot and there's a lot in between, and I totally get it because we went through the same thing. I mean, I tell people we lost $1.5 million in 22 days in March 2020, and almost all of our clients, because we run events and events were canceled, so we were just pooched, and all of our travel things as well, and so it's just been like I always say to people, like, for the first couple of months, I was like, oh, it's like a vacation almost. I'm like, I was like, wow, we have time to do whatever I want for a minute and spend time with my son. And because we were both at home all the time and all the things. And then I remember in like June of that year, it just like hit me. And I was like in a tailspin, like, what do I do? How do I get through this? And it was, depression for a little while. Like I just was sort of like, what's happening? And I think that there's still even ongoing, like, although we've managed to dig out and figure, problem solve and pivot and all the things that they tell you to do, sometimes successfully, sometimes not. And, just, pit through it, it's still been really hard. There's definitely like times when I'm like, gosh, this is just too much. You know what I mean? But then, and as I was saying to you, earlier before we even got on this call, like there's this polarity that you feel between like all the good stuff that's happening and all the potential and all the like great meetings, and then all the like annoying stuff that's like not quite working and impacting. And so you kind of go between these, you're on a meeting and you're like, oh, okay, well, we're going to do this and we're going to build that. And then you go to the next meeting. It's like, okay, like, how am I going to figure this out? And, oh, we're going to have to pivot this. And it's like, you're just like up and down all day long sometimes, in this climate. So I understand the skipping over, because there's so much in between that people just don't see. And, that's why I try to be super empathetic and kind to people, because there is so much going on behind the doors that we don't see. But good for you. I'm really happy that things are going well, though. I'm so happy that we got connected when we did. And I think it's so important that you're focusing in on raising capital, because right now, and nonprofits, of course, but like the raising capital is where I'm going to spend a little bit of time, because within our community, I see this as like a huge challenge and a pain point for people. People don't understand how to do it. People don't understand they don't necessarily have the networks to do it. And there's so many things to raising capital. Like there's just so much. And I think, like for instance, like people think that like accepting venture capital, for instance, is just like a rite of passage and it's like a cool thing, as opposed to like an option you have to weigh out and look at the pros and cons. And, and there's pitfalls of both. And, but there's also like things you need to know, like if you raise so much money here, you can't raise it over here, and like understanding all the intricacies of it. And, if you raise money from one country, can you raise it in another country, or can you raise it, there's just so much. And so I feel like there's a very big gap in knowledge around that, but it's also such a great need for people, and it's becoming such a common need. So, I really wanted to kind of get into the nitty gritty of that a little bit, but maybe first, if we can kind of just start from a high level and talk a little bit about what you mean and what it means to be a data-driven digital marketing agency, and how that, just sort of an overview of what that is, because I think that there's a lot of misconception around what that is. And although it's been very common and essential part of marketing for so long, I still think as small business owners, there's, definitely some confusion. So if you want to start there, and then we'll kind of just continually go deeper into this.
Yeah, absolutely. So data-driven, there's, I think different people, like you said, have different meanings attached to that phrase. But let me start here. Data has evolved so much, from, 12 months ago, 3, 5, especially 10 years ago, right? So, with traditional marketing compared to now, had so much less data point. Now you have data points of, that you can target based on age, gender, income, the websites that they visit, the podcast. So there's so many data points that it's easy to craft the type of demographic that you're looking to target. So data-driven marketing, really, if you have access to these type of data, it's really just utilizing that data to craft your perfect audience and customizing your marketing campaign to speak to a specific group of people versus like blasting it out to everybody, hoping that it sticks.
That's the spray and pray, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So especially with digital marketing, if you have access to the data, number one, which is half the battle, and then two, if you know how to interpret that data, then you can create the type of content, build the type of audience, and digital marketing will always work for every single industry, no matter what. And I can give you a quick example of like, traditional versus like the way data is being used in like traditional versus like digital. So let's take traditional. So like direct mail, for example, the data points that you have for your typical, not all, but your typical like, direct mail piece is that you have their address and you have a rough idea of like, if, the age range that they're in. And then if they have like, a family of like 4 or 5 or 6, based on surveys and some other data points, right? So you're sending that off. Let's say for a HVAC company, that's looking to sell like AC or heating units. So you send that over to John Smith's house. That's the data point that you have for direct mail, and that's it. And your campaign ends there, unless they look at the direct mail, call you, or visit your website. Now, if you go about, trying to target somebody like that, John Smith and his family, using digital marketing, you know exactly how old he is, how much he's making, the last time he bought a new AC unit or a heating unit and when he bought it, how many kids he has in the household, the type of car that he drives, the website that he visited within the last 30, 60 days. If he was looking for an AC unit to begin with, so then your marketing strategy starts to change. And then not only that, if he sees your ad online, because, you know, with digital, you can track, you know, there's so many different data tracking points, like placing pixels and stuff like that on your website. If he does show interest and comes to your website, then you have the capability to place second, third, and fourth ads in front of that individual versus like direct mail. If they see it and, you know, something happens or, you know, the kids get in the way and, you know, something just literally just happens or they don't see it, then that's the end of your campaign. There's no way you can track if somebody seen your marketing message or not. So I think that's a huge differentiator when it comes to like traditional and digital. And outside of that, you know, like with digital, we personally, you know, as an agency, we have access to 30,000 data publishers, which includes like Experian, Oracle, Datalogix, which allows us to really hyper focus on the type of individual, you know, our partners or clients are looking to get in front of, you know, versus traditional. If you run direct mails, it's impossible to even do, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's definitely different. I mean, we've done it, but it's a different expectation, you know, in terms of what you're, you know, if you send out a direct mail campaign, you're not expecting to see all the information. Whereas when I run a digital campaign or, you know, we expect a bunch of analytics, like we want to know. And so it's definitely a different expectation on our side as a client, and you know, how we're marketing, and we do a little bit of both for sure. But we, you know, obviously you would know we focus, you know, 99% on digital. It's just so much more effective for us, and I've seen the effectiveness, you know, over and over and over again. I told someone one time that in our last campaign with Haste and Hustle, we had a situation where our credit card had expired. So the new number hadn't been put in. And so I guess it just stopped running. And I was like, we were selling like 20, 30 tickets a day at this time. And then all of a sudden I like woke up and there was like no ticket sales, no comments on any of our stuff. And I was like, that's weird. What's happening? And then I got a call from our agency and they said, oh, you need to update it. So I sent them the updated, realizing the mistake, and they put it in, and it took a couple hours, I think, to actually get it like back up and running. But the moment it was back up and running, it was like the cash register started ringing again. Like it was like a light switch. And that was just so incredible to me. I mean, but that was after, you know, I think people forget that running ads is not the first thing you do. Like there's a lot of like back end development of it. And, you know, people forget that it takes time to build out the audiences and build out all the assets and build out all the different things that you have to do. I don't even know because I'm not in it. Obviously you can share a little bit about that.
Yeah,
but it's
there
heavy.
is a lot that goes on back end. Yeah, for sure. I mean, depending on the scope of your campaign, I know when I first, you know, started this agency, it used to take us like, you know, a month and a half, sometimes 2 months to launch a campaign because you got copy to write, video content to create, audiences to build, landing pages to build. I mean, there's copy for multiple platforms because you can't just write the same copy for, you know, Facebook versus Instagram versus like LinkedIn. So more platforms you're running campaigns on, the more content there is to create. But, you know, once you get the process down, then, you know, we're turning things around in 3 weeks now. But there's definitely, it takes a team of people that are, I'm not too fond of using the word expert, but people that are very knowledgeable in that particular department. Because with digital marketing, unlike what some people think, like, you know, hey, just go hire somebody in their 20s or like early 30s and they can figure this out and it's easy to do. There's so much layer to digital marketing, from copywriting itself as a skill in itself. Then you got content creation, which is a skill in itself. Then you got somebody that has to be able to read the data, somebody that needs to be able to strategize and put all this together. So that it takes a team of people to actually deploy like a high level marketing campaign.
I think that actually leads into one of our questions, because I like to always give people, we have a lot of people in our audience that are, just starting their business, and they may not have, funds to hire an agency just yet. And so they try to do it themselves. And so I like to kind of talk a little bit about how they can start it, in hopes that, at some point they'll be able to then transition to an agency model so that they can get the best bang for their buck. But if they were starting on their own, what are some of those things? And I think you kind of touched on them in your last comment, but maybe just, focus on what are some strategies that they could use to start their own campaign if they had to.
For sure. I think the biggest thing for somebody to keep in, maybe to consider, is I don't think it'll be hard for them to figure out where their audience lives. And what I mean by that is, what social media platform are they active on? I think that's figuring that part of it out is very important, because then you work off of that. So if you're starting off, let's just say you're trying to do a Reg CF on your own. Maybe you're trying to raise capital for your business, and you want to put it on like WeFunder or something like that, and you don't have a lot of capital, so you're going to start off. I would say Facebook is a great place to go. And because, and the reason I say Facebook or even LinkedIn is because those platforms actually have like tutorials on how to build these campaigns. And it's not that complex. So like when it comes to building digital marketing campaigns to create an image and to build an audience, like you can follow a tutorial, and within like a week or 2 weeks, you can build your own campaign. So building isn't the difficult part of it. It's more sort of the strategy and what type of strategy are you implementing, behind your digital marketing campaign. But I think those platforms have like video tutorials, which will be super helpful. And then, like Facebook has like, photos that you can utilize, because you need photos or video work. They allow you to create like slideshows within the platform, so you don't have to know like how to create videos. But I think a Facebook ad campaign is something that anybody would be able to launch right off the ground without an agency. Yeah, I think that's good to know. Devon, sorry, were you going to say something?
Yeah, no, I was going to ask about, like, I feel like a lot of people sometimes, and we talked about this earlier on, and we had our objective when we were working with you guys, and it's just like, okay, we want to awareness and tickets and whatnot. But do you find that you have to sometimes work with new business owners or small business owners and try to get their objective down first? Because we had some great conversations, but we were there, so we were able to kind of keep it going. But like, what's that like? Do you have to kind of make sure they're focused in?
Yep. It'll, I don't really work with, I guess this is a good thing. Like, we don't really work with small businesses, like starting off anymore, unless they're set up completely different, right? Like they have like a VC firm backing them or something like that. We work with those. But like, if you're starting on your own, we don't work with those. But when I did initially start digital marketing, I did work with those small business owners. And I did use Facebook for, not like, now that I'm thinking and talking out loud, I did use Facebook Facebook and Instagram for every single one of those business owners, because Facebook is the most cost-effective platform to run your digital campaigns on. So that's something for somebody to consider, and small businesses to consider. And it's the easiest to set up. And they have a lot of data that you can start off with to use to target. So one of the things that I do find, like, if you're a small business owner and you're trying to build a campaign, go and research the type of data Facebook allows you to use. So for example, if I put like a Reg CF out on like WeFunder or something like that, and if I'm doing it on my own, a lot of times what people will do that's not familiar with running Facebook ads is they'll go build an audience and they'll go broad. What I mean by that is they'll target everybody between the age of 18 to 65 in the entire United States. And maybe they'll put in like, they visit websites like, Kickstarter and something else, right? But then the way you want to build your audience is, if you do some research, you want to look at your Reg CF offering and say, well, who does this benefit? Who does it bring value to? And then if it's the people between the age of, let's say, 35 to 55, that should be interested in, or visiting certain websites. And then on top of that, you want to add their income. So you can actually target the top 5% income earners in America, which will make it, little over, 200,000 a year. Or if you do like your top 10%, they're making at least 100,000 a year. So adding those, like, I call them kickers on top of the age group, and then maybe picking like the top 20 states, you'll get a much better outcome by just the fact that, you narrowed it down a little bit.
Right. There's the actual data driven portion of it. Like that's what's getting you the result. Okay. So question, I know that you said that sometimes people will kind of cast these super wide nets for creating their campaign and whatnot. What else can sometimes, because we've got the data and like, even though you're using Facebook, you do also, and maybe I'm just kind of clarifying for the listeners, there's also like placement of the campaign elsewhere. It's not like you're just living in Facebook and that's where everything goes, right? Yeah. So it'll be around the web and kind of tracked by their unique identifiers and whatnot. But what other? Yeah, kind of. Maybe you can talk to that actually for a minute, because I think sometimes that's lost on people thinking that I'm actually just in Facebook or just in Instagram, but that's not necessarily the case. So maybe you can touch on that, and I'll get back to my question after.
Sure, that's a great point. So when you do run ads inside of Facebook, they have, because of the impact, and the amount of users that Facebook and Instagram has, they have agreements with millions of apps and websites out there. This could include like Forbes, MSN.com, Yahoo, the Weather Channel, and any website basically that allows for like advertising, they have agreements with usually, right, or typically. So there's a button inside of Facebook when you're building a campaign. It's called the Audience Network. You click that button if they give you access as a new advertiser. You can click that button, and what happens is if you're targeting John Smith and he's never logged into, or let's say he hasn't logged into Facebook in the last 18 months, because Facebook knows based on the way you built the audience, you're targeting John Smith. When John Smith gets on the Weather Channel to check the weather, because he has 2 kids, so he wants to see what the weather looks like on Saturday morning, your ad's gonna show on the Weather Channel, but only if you know how to click that button that's like super, super small inside the ads manager. And if you get access, like I'm a little out of touch from like the new like ads manager, because I've been doing it for over a decade now. So like I have like other accesses, like I have like access to run like political ads. I have access, to the Audience Network. I mean, I use DSPs and different things like that. But I think even for the new ad builders, I would assume that they are still giving access to those people that are building new campaigns to the Audience Network. But it's crucial though. That's what it also, helps digital campaigns be successful, is because it runs on all these different platforms outside of social media. So that's a great thing that you brought. Yeah.
And it doesn't help that Facebook literally looks different every 3 months and every region that you go in. So I mean, it's okay. It's okay. We definitely had our pains of going through Facebook, and it looked different for you, it looked different on my end, and it literally looked different on Shauna's end because, well, we're in Canada and you're in Dallas. All right. So going back to, first of all, thanks for all of that explanation. I think that's pretty important. Yeah. Going back to building the campaigns and working with some of the clients, we always want to know, we want to kind of build on the work and the pitfalls and what's happened before. What are some of the things that people that come, your clients do where it just doesn't work, and we kind of should avoid that before coming to you, or be prepared to know this? Like, what yields poor results for a campaign, and how can we kind of stop that?
The biggest thing that I see with all the new partners that come on board with us is that they're only doing typically one part of digital marketing. If they had somebody that knew, that really understands digital marketing, they'll be doing 2. And what I mean by that is they're typically just doing social ads and that's it. Or they're usually just doing like search ads like Google AdWords, or that's it. Or they're just usually doing like SEO and that's it. Or they'll do email marketing, text campaigns, but that's it. So like I have never come across a client that's actually doing everything that I just mentioned. So they're not doing search ads plus social plus email marketing plus text, and creating this cohesive digital marketing funnel / campaign that's creating what I like to call omnipresence. So no matter where John Smith goes, if he searches for the service you offer, if he visits a website related to the services you offer, there's no social campaigns targeting him. If he connects or engages with your ad, there's no retargeting campaign set up. If he opts into your social campaign, there's no email marketing or text campaign. So there's like, imagine having a bucket full of water and they're putting, and the water is all the traffic source that they're putting into their funnel. There's so many holes inside of their bucket. And what we do is we go plug these holes in and create a very cohesive digital. That's what we do. And then that way, at the end of it, there's no water pouring out of your bucket. So I think that's the biggest mistake. Everybody thinks like, well, or there's one more thing. People will say, well, I did social marketing and it didn't work for me. I hear that so many times, but then I'll go look at their ad account and then their targeting is way off. The campaign types that they're using is way off, because even in social, there's traffic ads, lead gen ads, post engagement ads, video views ads. Those 4 ads are there inside Facebook because the AI caters to those 4 type of behaviors online when you run those 4 campaigns. You can literally have the same content, the same video, the same copy, and then just with a push of a button, it's served to the community differently to different people in the same audience.
Cool.
So
Gotcha.
Yeah, just having knowledge of the little things like that will improve your campaign. But I think it's just that most people, they just don't have the right team, or they just have one person trying to do everything and it's it never works out that way.
I really like the bucket and plugging the whole. That analogy was really cool. I like that a lot. I hadn't heard that one before.
That's a
That's
good
cool.
one. I really want to chat a little bit about, the work that you've been doing with crowdfunding and raising capital. I think we, talked a little bit about that at the beginning, but I think that's such an important part of your business. And I think if we can chat a little bit about, how you kind of go about that, what kind of clients are your sort of best, optimal clients and people who are ready for that? Who are those people? And how you help them.
Yep, absolutely. So a little bit of a background. So I've been doing digital capital raises for a little over 5 years. I got my foot in the door with capital raises doing oil and gas raises. So, I guess it's natural that I'm in Texas and there's a lot of oil and gas companies looking for accredited investors. And I actually had a partner that has some investment in there. So that's how I got my foot in the door. We do Reg A, Reg D, and Reg CF offerings, but I'll kind of start with like the Reg CF, the crowdfunding, because I think that's pretty popular in a lot of the small business or like, just companies just starting off. So I actually have a couple of like Reg CF campaigns running right now. One in particular is for a aviation company based out of San Diego. They came to us. They had raised about a little over $100,000 in about a 3 to 4 month period. So companies that are ready to work with us in this space, one has a product or service that really has an impact on the community that they serve, or makes that particular community's lives better or something like that. So you have a really viable product or service that makes a difference. On top of that, they have to really know who they are. And what I mean by that is, they have their branding, they understand, their mission of their organization and how they're going to impact that community. So all of that has to be in place before they come to us, because we're the team that are executing and create the message that they already have. And then, rewrite it or reapply it or create the type of videos that they need for social. So taking this Reg CF, they came to us when they had 100K. I'll just jump to the results really quick. So 6 months later, they're over $2 million. So they're at $2,037,000 and some change 6 months down the road. So, we're raising a couple $100,000 for them every single month. And our ad spend isn't that significant either. We're probably spending total about like $7K a month. So for every dollar that they're spending, they're getting about $20 to $30 back. It fluctuates on the month, but every single month, like I said, on $7,000, that's how they're that's how much they're raising. And how do we do it? How do we create this type of campaign for for Reg CF? Well, one is having access to the data. So we have access to, we were fortunate enough that we landed a pretty big client back in end of 2018, leading, we did campaigns for them in 2019. So we have access to those 30,000 data publishers. And within that data set, what's included for us are people that have Coinbase accounts, Robinhood accounts that are active on those platforms, right? And then we also have like all the information on, the type of stocks that people may have bought in the last 12 months, how much they've bought, how much they're making, how much investable asset that they have, because Experian alone, that data set alone gives me a lot of the people's financial information. So from there, what I do is I'll construct and say, okay, for this Reg CF, we're going to create an audience between the 18 to 22, the younger demographic. And then we'll go create maybe like the mid-level 25 to 31, and then 32 to 37, because all of those people have different reasons on why they would want to invest into that Reg CF. So we do our research, we create different content for those different demographics that I just mentioned. And then we start to drive the traffic there. Obviously, there's, once you start to drive the traffic there, there's a whole funnel that kicks in, and there's the retargeting campaigns and all of that. But really, it's just one, half the battle is having access to the data. And then two, do you have the right funnel that can automate the process of your digital campaign? So if John Smith goes to this, landing page A, and he doesn't invest, let's say the minimum is $100, but he doesn't invest $100. Well, what's the next message that he sees? And he sees message number 2, and he doesn't act then. What is message 3, and what is message 4? And maybe on message 4, he goes back to the site, and then he decides to invest right then and there. So
you got him.
It's really just so having a funnel in place is what's important. Yeah.
It's really cool. I'm so impressed by, the work that you guys are doing in that area. And I think it's, as I mentioned before, just so crucial and such an important need for people, because there's so much fundraising happening, and I think a lot of people are confused by it. So it's really great. I'd love to get my community really aware of the work that you're doing there, and I'm excited to share that with us, everybody.
And there's a lot of different type of raises we do too. I know that's the Reg CF, but then we also do like Reg D raises to where minimum investment is like $1 million, for this private charter company that we work with. So different strategies for different type of raises. And then also
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No,
sorry. My fault. I was just going to ask, I just want to go back, to be, investment ready. I always talk to people about how to be investment ready. How do you, and I know you already touched on this a little bit, but I'd like to just sort of drive the point home, how to be crowdfunding ready, how to be ready to come to you. What are the things that a business owner needs to have in place? If you can just kind of go back over that a little bit, I think it would be important to.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think there's a couple things that business owners need to have in place before they decide to go on a journey of finding, money to grow their business. One is, making sure, I'm just going to start with the super basics, but having a website is, it's just a must. Having a pitch deck with projections, their why on, why they started it, who's involved in the organization, and with what they have, how far they've brought the business, whether it's a service or a product type of based business, like how far they've brought it and what their vision looks like within the next 1 to 3, 5 years. I think that's important. And they have to be, the brand itself really needs to understand again who they are and who they serve, because they can't be, most organizations, the biggest mistake I think entrepreneurs make is that they think they serve everybody and they don't. There's always a community that they typically start off with. Even if you do serve everybody like Amazon and you eventually get there, there's always going to be that first 1,000 customers that you're going to be serving. So being able to know who your core audience and your customer or your clients are, and then building a business and having something built already that's already out in the marketplace, I think shows that you're ready. But if you have something that people really want and you've already tested it in the marketplace, I would say test it too. There's so many different ways you can test your product or service out in the marketplace without spending tens and thousands of dollars. So if your product or service has been tested in the marketplace and there's a use case for it, then I think you're ready to rock and to go on a Reg CF. And I think that's a huge mistake. I've made a mistake on myself to where, I built the website and I invested like, 20 grand into something. And then when I went to go launch it, it was crickets. That was like the biggest mistake I've made as an entrepreneur is like, creating a website and buying all these things and, paying for things I really didn't need and not understanding like as of today, like you can test your idea for less than $1,000, literally in most cases.
Right.
What are different ways you recommend testing it? Just to be super clear for everybody.
Can you say that one more time, Shauna? You cut out just.
Oh, sorry. What are your recommendations on how to test? Like, just to kind of give some examples to our listeners.
Yeah, for sure. If it's a service-based business, then I would say create one landing page, which would cost you. I mean, there's websites like, MailChimp where there's, leadpages.net, but there's different platforms out there that allow you to create a landing page, create that landing page, make it go live, which will cost you about $100. And then, learn how to run some digital campaigns through the free tutorials, and then run the type of, run your ad in front of the type of audience you want to go after, and then drive some traffic to that landing page and see if people, opt in on your landing page or call you, from the number that you have set up. I think that's I'm a digital marketer. So, my testing is going to involve digital marketing campaigns. Yeah. But I think it's easy to do that. But you just want to what I'm trying to say is you want to put it out there. Now, if it's a product, then, this product is going to cost you, $200,000 to create it, even just to have like, the mold and getting it off of the, production, I guess, maybe is the terminology I'm looking for. But something like that, could be really super hard to test. But service-based, or if it's a product, I would share that idea, put it out there. There's survey. Survey is a good way to get out there and test your idea and see if people would utilize it. But making sure that you're putting those surveys in front of your audience that you would actually want to sell that product or service to.
I think that's good. And one of our other partners, Kernel, has a great place to do that too. Just plugging them for
yeah, that's a great plug. Totally. They throw your idea up. They can kind of like get it upvoted, downvoted. I got I think how we're doing on time, but I got one more question. I was just, when you mentioned Coinbase and Robinhood, it kind of sparked an idea. I remember before with data-driven marketing, the Internet of Things was like a big source of new data. And that was like supposed to be this huge thing. Everyone was talking about that. And it's like, where I know you have that major kind of deal that you got a couple of years ago. We mentioned that a bit, and that gave you a ton of data points. But what do you look to for the future? Like, how is data-driven marketing going to get stronger? Or what are your plans to capitalize on that, especially with all the new data around, cryptocurrency? I know we've talked a little bit about that, but what are you seeing for data-driven marketing around the new data points that are coming up?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think the key right there is the type of data points that are coming out. So obviously, aside from, this device right here, your phone, tracking everything that you do, listening to everything that you say, which is the data points that we get access to, by the way. So like whatever you say no to, yes to, whatever you click on, whatever you don't click on, that is data points, because what you say no to tells us who you are as well too, But so outside of that, where we probably get a majority of our data from, because this is what everybody uses, and it's just an extension of who you are. The new tech and stuff, that's coming out, that's going to be available to us. It's probably already there, is like facial recognition type of stuff, right? So for example, and Facebook and some of these social media platforms are already doing it. When you're looking at a post, they're looking at your facial expression and then tying that into the, are you clicking on it or not? How long are you staying on it? And what type of facial expression are allowing people to stay on that video for 30 seconds versus what type of facial expression is getting people to leave after like 5 seconds, so like those type of data points, I think is going to be available to us. But then let me just go a step further and say, with the metaverse coming, and we partnered with this company called Loot NFT that created a metaverse. But being able to go inside of this metaverse is going to have a whole nother data point, because now not only, do we have data point access to your phone, but like the activities you do inside of like a virtual world where there's no consequences is going to show me another side of who you are. right? Because you're gonna do a little bit, not in a bad way.
Dan, talking to you makes me want to get a VPN.
Yeah, me too.
I think I want to anonymize all my action now, because we've been going back and forth with building our campaigns for Haste and Hustle for a while, and I'm like, you probably know everything about me. It's been a couple months now, Dan, more than a couple. So yeah, you know what? Fine, that's me.
I feel like cutting off all my internet and electricity and moving into the forest at this point, guys.
But it's crazy though.
No, it's good.
Shauna, like I could take your email address and find out where you live, and then I can piggyback your IP address and all kinds of stuff. I mean, because those are the data points that we need. So like when you visit certain websites, right? Look, keep this in mind. When you visit certain websites, you don't have to opt into anything, and I can pick up your first name, last name, email, phone number, and address, and it piggies back to your IP address. So like I have softwares like that I implement for capital raise clients. So like, although they don't opt in on our client's website, I pick up all that information and I take that, and then you can start, you can use that data however you want. There's so many things you can do. So anyways,
I feel like we might be scaring our listeners, but guys, stay tuned. Stay tuned. There's light at the end of the room. No, this is all good. Ultimately, it's sort of like scary to think about that from a nefarious perspective, but obviously there's a lot of good that is beneficial for businesses and all those things. So
absolutely.
Okay, I know that I'm trying to wrap up a little bit here, because I know that we're coming to the end of our time, and I want to honor you, the time that you've given us today. We have two last questions that we ask everybody, and so I'm going to just ask them to you. So the first one is, if you could have dinner with anybody, dead or alive, from any time period in history, who would it be and why?
You know what? I have I'm debating. I'm not saying it just to say it's a toss up between Elon Musk and Richard Branson, and here's why. Because I'm such a space enthusiast. I've been wanting to go to space for years. My team knows this, my partner knows this, but I think I don't know. Virgin Galactic and what he's accomplished, the spaceport that he has. I want to say Richard Branson, but then I like Elon Musk's swag, and he's doing all the cybernetic stuff of, saying the phone's an extension of who you are. And we're just going to put this chip in your head and you'll be able to think of Google, bring up Google in your head and do searches. So I don't know. If I had to pick on the fly, I'll go with Elon Musk.
Cool.
Great answer. I love that. Yeah.
That's awesome. And our final question is, if you could leave our listeners with one piece of business advice, what would it be?
One piece of advice for business owners. I'll pull it from my journey. If you start a business, you gotta go with the intent of, not giving yourself an option B. Because if you give yourself an option B, that's just a distraction that you'll have. And you're giving yourself a way out, if things get tough on the going, right? So, and, we had COVID that we had to overcome. Then we had, I think every business goes through this, or a lot does, we had partner issues that we had to go through. There's just so many uncontrollables. And Shauna, you mentioned this during the, our conversation today. There's so much up and down that you're gonna have to go through. You just got to stay focused, keep your head down and just doing the work. You can't look at the past. If you're going to look anywhere, I would look up and look at the future and what you're looking to accomplish, but just being consistent every single day and then just showing up. And I think, when you look back, by the time it's all said and done, I think you'll accomplish a lot. So just keep your head down and just keep grinding away, just keep hustling. So
that was awesome. That was great. Great advice. I love it. Very timely for everything going on in the world. That was great. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for all that you do for us, and hopefully what you'll help to do for our community. So thanks again for being here, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yep. Thanks, Shauna. Thanks, Damani. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Dan.